Hey everyone! Today's video is really not the typical kind of video for me, but I was reading Giallo Meltdown by Richard Glenn Schmidt, and I started having all these questions come up as I was reading it. So by the time I was done, I decided to hit him up for an interview. Now, Richard is also a podcaster, so this interview ran long, but it's just a really good talk. So if you want to listen to it like a podcast, you don't have to be looking at it. Just chill with us. Just give it a shot. See what you think. Thank you so much to Richard for being on with me. Now let's get into the interview. Hello! I am joined here today by Richard Glenn Schmidt of DoomedMovieThon.com, the Hello, This is the Doomed Show podcast, the Doomed Moviethon YouTube channel, the Cinema Somnambulist blog, and finally, the reason for this video, the author of Giallo Meltdown.
Hi, Katie. Hi, everybody.
Hi, we are so glad to have you here.
Oh, I'm honored. This is awesome.
So I recently finished Giallo Meltdown in full. So, well, not really, but I'll explain that later. So, for those who are not familiar with this book, why don't you tell us what it's about?
Yeah, I instead of doing a book about the Giallo in a normal way and like just make it easy for people to use and go through, I followed my instincts and did movie-thons. So I was having weekend-long or longer movie-thons over the years. Like, I did a Doomed Fulci-thon where I watched 18 Lucio Fulci movies in 48 hours, which I recommend and don't recommend at the same time, because it ended with me on my second television because the first TV broke during the movie-thon. So I was sitting on the floor with a bottle of J&B, taking notes, and I'd given up doing shots of J&B for the eye violence, and I was just drinking from the bottle, just randomly destroying myself with House by the Cemetery. But I just started like taking these down as like diary entries and reacting to the films in real time, and not worrying about if I'm on like the 15th movie, if none of my notes make any sense. That's okay. I keep a lot of my weirdness intact. And I think it was around the 4th or 5th Giallo Meltdown, somebody in one of the message boards I was in suggested I just do a book. And I was like, oh yeah, I've written thousands of words by accident. I guess I should keep going. So that's when I decided to make Giallo Meltdown into a whole book.
It's got a really stream of consciousness nature to it, which is very cool.
Thank you.
It was a blast. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like getting into your head. And a lot of us watching these movies, we're just in our own head with the stuff because we're doing this alone. So I thought this was really an ambitious feat to have these movie-thons. It's never anything I've ever thought of doing before, but I was never a big movie watcher till recently.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we view sitting on the couch and watching TV as lazy, but you kind of turn it into this achievement, which I thought was really cool, and almost made it this like sacred activity with an end purpose.
Yeah, it helps motivate you to keep going. I've had a lot of... The hardest part is not quitting before it starts. So coming home from work on a Friday evening and being in a bad mood possibly could get the whole thing derailed, because it's all fun and games until like late Saturday afternoon when you're like, I am really nowhere near the end. And then I'm thinking ahead of all the movies on Sunday, and then I'm thinking ahead of work on Monday, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. So once you've committed to at least writing the like 5 or 6 paragraphs, it's not going to get called off. I'm not.
We're in too deep now.
Yeah, I can't help this now. This is it.
When I picked up this book, I was like, I have seen so many Gialli. I'm gonna know like all the movies in this book. and that was very false. So I marked all the ones
Holy crap.
I haven't
Look
seen.
at those.
I marked all the ones I haven't seen yet.
You're so organized. That's incredible.
Well, I don't really I like going into movies totally blind, so
Yes.
I decided I was going to come back to some of them.
I tried very hard to not do spoilers. I only got one bad review because, well, I got several bad reviews, but I got a bad review where the dude was like, "You totally spoiled the Crimes of the Black Cat because you said the method of how the killer was killing people," and I was like, which is established if you go to IMDb and read the one sentence plot. But yeah, I've stayed true to that. I never reveal who the killer is, and I guess major spoilers, I kind of leave that out. But I also recommend waiting until you've seen the movie.
Because it's fun to, right after I've watched a movie, to go back and be like, okay, what did he say about it? This will be an ongoing read for me.
It's going to be a process, yeah.
This book covers 215 films, all of which you watched and recorded your thoughts. And there's also an index, which I'm really grateful for. If I hadn't tabbed everything, I could easily just look it up in the index.
That's the other hardest part, doing the index, because once you get the layout, because shout out to my my self-publishing homies. Hey. Y'all know what's up. It's once you get the layout of the book done, doing the index just takes forever. But as long as you don't start if you don't start like typing more sentences and thus moving where a movie's mentioned or where an actor is mentioned in the book, you should be good to go.
So how long did it take you to complete all of these movie-thons? Do you know about when you started until when you finished?
I used the Wayback Machine. I went to Internet Archive to go to my old version of my website. Shout out to y'all using Dreamweaver out there to make your HTML. Don't ever use that. I don't think anyone uses Dreamweaver anymore. But I went back and I found that I posted the first Giallo Meltdown in I wrote it down. January of 2008. And then I did the last one in September of 2013.
Wow.
And then editing the book was like a year and a half. And I wish I'd taken another half a year because I made a little boo-boo. And anyone who bought the first 75 copies, which how I sold 5 copies is amazing to me. But I sold the first 75 copies, and then as those were being sold, I was reading the book at home for the third time or second time, probably only the second time, which is not good, and just finding all these mistakes. Like I had grabbed the highlighter, and I had highlighter through the whole book, so I had to go and edit and then quickly release the final version, which has no errors. So you're going to still find some errors, but that first version, I wish I could call up those 75 people and just offer them a free copy with less horrific mistakes in it.
It's the rare out-of-print version.
Oh, God. The dude who gave me the shitty review, that first round, I accept it. I accept all the... I love even the bad reviews. I've had some humdingers of bad reviews that... Oh, they're great.
You have a great sense of humor. Little side note, your banner on your YouTube channel is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
So yeah, I have had some weird comments over the years, and I've had some like mean comments, but that dude, he managed to make a mean comment about my physical appearance that made me laugh so hard. He said, "Thank you, Mr. Kemper, for all of the Giallo suggestions." And he spelled Giallo wrong.
It makes me just laugh uncontrollably anytime it crosses my mind.
And one of my friends got really offended for me. He's like, "That's messed up, man. I don't like that." And I was like, "That's literally the funniest thing that's ever going to happen to me." I love it.
I love it too. How did you create this list of gialli to choose from? Was it reference, or was it people, or how did that list your master list come about?
It started on message boards. I was on a bunch of old message boards back in the day. I think lovelockandload.net was one. And there's probably, DVD Maniacs. I think these are so old. This is like the height of 2005 here. And as far as like actual like analog, I did some show and tell here. We got Blood and Black Lace by Adrian Luther Smith, which I would love for a second edition, especially one where the pages don't fall out, because I've managed to glue it back together, but as you can see, not such a good job I did. But this is essential. This has like everything in it. It's this wonderful book, and of course, it's like $150 used now. I'm like, get out of here with that. And then the other one, which I half recommend, is called Spaghetti Nightmares, by Luca M. Palmarini and Gaetano Mistretta. This is a fun book. The problem being, there's a giallo section and an Italian horror section and a fantasy section in the back. And the giallo reviews almost always have spoilers. So the front part of the book's good because it's got interviews with Joe D'Amato. Oh no, wait, was he still alive? I'm using my new glasses here. No, he's totally dead. No, so totally Dario Argento's in here, Lamberto Bava's in here, Luigi Cozzi, Ruggero Deodato, Mimsy Farmer. Like, so it's a great book for the interviews. And I did use the list in the back of the giallo titles to find more stuff. And they don't like giallo very much. Like, they like the classics, but most of the fun ones, they're like, this is worthless. Avoid this film. It's like, nah, dude, we're good. Those are my primary sources.
Okay.
And now there's, I mean, I might have peeked at the questions that were going to ask me, and we'll talk about what is and isn't a giallo and how people feel about that in a little bit. Oh, it's like the next question.
It is the next question. Okay.
Man, it's a spoiler.
So in your book, you do mention that these aren't all necessarily official gialli. And it did remind me of a comment that someone left on one of my videos regarding like what is and isn't a giallo. And they said, well, back then, you know, in the 60s or the 70s, nobody was saying this is a giallo and this isn't a giallo. I wasn't there. I don't know if that's true. But they were saying we only became more concerned with those details and like putting things in the correct categories. We became concerned with that later. I don't know if that's true, but I liked that idea, and it made sense, you know, that we're not trying to draw these hard lines around the films when they were in their golden age. So Tell me, what are your thoughts on this genre policing we see?
As long as the debates and like the arguments are like not capital A arguments or like lowercase arguments, and because people are having fun doing it, because of the it's hard to get context from text, you know, it's hard to find out how people are, if they're being condescending about it, you know. I genuinely cannot stand that. I am very liberal with the word giallo, so I'll use giallo as shorthand for like Happy Birthday to Me, so like an American giallo, or like something like Pieces. Even though it's supposed to be a slasher, it still feels like a giallo, and I'll just straight up refer to it as a giallo. And then, like, just to get really obscure, a movie I want to will into existence on Blu-ray called Night After Night After Night. It is a very, very giallo-inspired British film that I'll just straight up call it a giallo and not worry about it. But I have heard that Italians are very strict about what is and isn't a giallo, but at the same time, the Great Muppet Caper is like La Giallo de Muppet, and Murder, She Wrote is like known as the Lady of Giallo. So they're liberal. They're liberal with it. It could mean even like a true crime documentary could be called a giallo, but I don't worry about it. And part of the book, especially the upcoming volume of Giallo Meltdown, is even more exploratory because some helpful or very demonic person went on IMDb one day and just added the Giallo tag to every ding-dang thing that there is. Like, everything has a Giallo tag on IMDb now.
Oh, no.
It's crazy. So I am like, all right, let's figure this out. So I've got more films for the second book than I do for the first one because I'm genuinely curious. So, and I'll straight up admit, like, what is it? I can't think of the titles. There's 2 or 3 Kung Fu movies that I watched that were labeled as Kung Fu Giallo. And the ancient Chinese setting, like where they're set in like the 1400s, 1300s in China, I don't feel the Giallo vibe. It's like, yes, they're a murder mystery. Yeah, if this was set in swingin' London in the 60s, or hell, swingin' Hong Kong in the 70s, whatever, it would feel more like a Giallo to me. But I tried. I'm never going to stop looking for that. And at the end of the day, if somebody in a group on Facebook is like, dude, I totally disagree with you about Communion, aka Alice, Sweet Alice. If somebody wants to go to the mat over that, I'm like, no, okay, whatever. It doesn't have to be a Giallo, dude. It's good. I'm trying to remember one. Let me see if I can peek at my shelves and see. Oh, this one caused a big one. Dude flipped out. Don't Look Now, the British movie that's very much like Who Saw Her Die. I just called it a Giallo, and this dude lost his ever-loving mind about it. He did not. It was a debate that went on for like 20, 30, 40 comments, and I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
I'll back away slowly.
Sometimes it makes me want to intentionally mispronounce everything and mislabel everything just for the fun of it.
I mean, we're not Italian. We're probably saying it wrong anyway. I used to say, the German Krimi.
I know.
I used to say Krimi all the time. I was embarrassing myself on podcast.
I say creamy too. It just seems right.
And they are full of creamy goodness.
Creamy. So you didn't watch all these films alone. You had your wife joining you for some. You had your friends joining you for some, as well as your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And your mother-in-law, Margie, specifically, that interested me. She seemed like she was very chill. So
yes.
What did she think about these crazy, sleazy films?
So I was fully into my movie mode and fully into the book well before she moved in with us. And Margie was this wonderful lady who, she was one of the first adults that I, like, even though I was in my mid-20s when I met her, I still felt like a child. And there's times where I still feel like a big kid. But she was like listening when I'd ramble on about movies and ramble on about bands I liked and just guitar crap or whatever. And she was genuinely interested and just really, really curious about stuff. And before she knew it, she was watching these movies with us. And I'm trying to remember. I remember like going through all of Argento with her. I probably spared her some Fulci. But we definitely watched a lot of the classic Giallos together. My favorite memory, not horror or Giallo related with her, was Repo Man, the 80s movie with Emilio Estevez, classic comedy, and just her mind was blown with that one. Like, she's like, it all comes together at the end. Like, all those weird jokes were like clues. And I was like, this is the greatest. She should write a review on Letterboxd. This is great. But the Giallo in the book I remember the best was LeEtta was tapping out for the night. She's like, good night, I'm done. I can't do this. And I assumed Margie was going to bed. And all of a sudden she walks out as I'm hitting play on So Sweet, So Dead. And I was like, how this works, right? If I've never seen one before, I am like taking no responsibility for what's about to happen. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'll probably just watch a few minutes. And then we ended up watching one of the, not the sleaziest giallo, but pretty sexy giallo.
Yeah, yeah.
And the sex scenes we kept our eyes focused on the screen. We didn't look at each other like, I don't, get away from me. But we loved the story and we had a great time with it. And it's weird that that memory of watching it with her is so much better than, like, I rewatched it recently because that Blu-ray finally came out. And I was like, yeah, that was good. Yeah, man, it was better with my mother-in-law.
That is too cool. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Considering the sheer quantity of movies you have seen, not just Jolly for that matter, do you ever feel like you've forgotten what you've watched?
I'm surprisingly, I'm pretty good. What's getting harder to do now is remembering actors' names and remembering actresses and like putting together, hey, that director made another movie. Like that kind of stuff is, I was hot shit like 10 years ago. That stuff would just pop out all the time in my brain. And now I'm like, like I'm literally trying to remember Marina Malfatti. Yes.
I can never remember that name.
I remember her because she's sexy.
She's in everything.
Exactly. She's great. Underused. But I can say one thing that I don't know how this has happened. I have yet to buy the same movie twice with my movie shopping in all these years.
Oh, that says a lot.
The day that happens is going to be a dark day because I'll be like, no.
It means you should retire from movie watching.
I'll stop buying movies. I'll have like a freaking an Excel spreadsheet or something, and I'll have to go and have all the alternate titles of everything just to make sure I don't make boo-boos.
They have apps for that, right?
I am so backwards. I have still never done a Letterboxd.
Oh my gosh.
I do not do any film tracking. In fact, I stopped typing in every movie I watch every year on my blog. For 5 years, I recorded every single movie I watched every month. And I would do an asterisk by first time watch. And that helped me at the end of the year figure out my favorites.
Yeah.
And I'm only writing down the stuff I want to talk about. At the end of the year, I'm like so done. So even if I had a letterbox, I'd be letting it slide right now. I wouldn't even log in.
Wow, you're just like living life.
I'm just living old. I'm just like trying to see if I can lose touch with reality's been gone a long time, but with the current technologies.
I respect that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so one movie that I haven't seen, but I didn't skip over it in this book. That is The Seducers, aka Top Sensation from 1969, because that's one that I want to see. I've started watching it in all Italian, but I didn't finish it. But I want to see it. But I read your write-up, and there is a there is a scene that has to do with a goat that you described.
Yep. Yeah, dude.
Was that a good movie? What would you say?
I really like The Seducers. It's okay. I've seen it once, but I quickly found the Italian copy on YouTube just to refresh my memory. And it's a solid thriller. It's a solid movie, and it's very claustrophobic. The goat scene it's not as bad as it sounds.
Oh my God.
It's as tasteful as it can be.
It was the 60s. We're still like a little classy.
Oh, yeah, dude. If this was late 70s in any country, I was gonna just single out Italy for being trashy, but let's just be honest, the late 70s for anything cinematic, we were in the danger zone. But yeah, it's a very interesting scene, to say the least.
A tasteful goat scene, huh?
It's not like it's like have you seen the Antichrist, the Exorcist ripoff yet? Mm-mm. All right, there's some goat in there too.
Oh God. Well, somehow I'm even more interested in just checking out Top Sensation because it sounds so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to talk about a few of the specific films.
Yeah.
Do you remember much about Tropic of Cancer from 1972? The
Yes.
Haiti giallo?
So I'm overdue for a rewatch now that it's on Blu-ray. I'm very excited that one came to Blu-ray. But what I remember about it is I really remember being satisfied with the movie overall, the mystery and the murders and everything, but it was grimy and sweaty. And I think, if I remember right, it played with the themes of like Europeans exploiting Africa.
Yeah.
And good old Anita Strindberg. Her character was very enamored with a young gentleman from Africa in the movie. And just Anthony Stephan mugging. That's what I remember. But yeah, no, I can't wait to watch it again.
I love that movie too, and it doesn't get talked about enough. So I was glad to read about your thoughts in the book. But I was shocked that you didn't like Mr. Peacock, the chubby man.
I mean, now I think I might have identified with him too much.
Were you projecting?
Yes, whenever there's an unpleasant character, and my wife, she starts to complain about them, I'm like, but that's my favorite one. And she's like, oh God, what's wrong with you?
Justice for Mr. Peacock.
Oh, hey, I am going to reevaluate that movie and especially hone in on him just for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
In this book, you mentioned that Phenomena is your second favorite horror movie of all time.
Yeah.
Which Phenomena is one of my faves as well.
God, so good.
May I ask what your top number one favorite horror movie is?
Well, good old The House by the Cemetery by Lucio Fulci somehow knocked it out of its slot. I just love that movie so much. And part of it is probably just drinking from that bottle of J&B sitting on my floor watching it at the end of that movie-thon. That movie, I always describe it as, it feels like a horror movie I saw on TV when I was like way too young, except I didn't see it till I was an adult. It has all the elements of, I guess, just like a forbidden watch from when I was like sneaking awake, because I was a terrible insomniac as a kid, because I was terrified of going to school because some kids made fun of me. So I was totally like laying awake all night planning the cool comebacks I was going to say. I'm going to show these, I'm going to construct these really like long-winded formulas of what these conversations might go like. I'll show them. Those conversations never happened, so I never got to use my sick cut downs. But I would just, because I couldn't sleep, I just watch movies, and I saw stuff like Girls' Night Out, and I saw Prom Night. I remember distinctly seeing Absurd, or Anthropophagus 2, the Joe D'Amato one, the like shameless Halloween ripoff. I saw that when I was like 8 on TV, and those like really influenced me because I'm, I'm criminally nostalgic from my youth. And House by the Cemetery just feels like one of those movies. Probably because there's a kid in it. Speaking of annoying characters. Good old Bob.
Yeah, Bob gets talked about a lot. But I personally, I need to see the movie again, because the first time I watched it, it was a terrible YouTube upload because that was the only way I could find it at the time, and I was like, what just happened?
Yep, it's a weird one.
And then I was like, I'm just gonna go back to City of the Living Dead and The Beyond.
Yes, oh man, those are, you can't go wrong with those.
We have just a couple more questions. Yeah. I know this has been kind of a long talk, but there's a lot to be said.
And I ramble, y'all. Look out.
What is your top favorite giallo? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pick a top favorite, but what's your top favorite at the moment?
Oh, at the moment, it is The Dead or Alive from good old Armando Crispino. It somehow, for years and years and years, it was 7 bloodstained orchids.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
The wonderful, wonderful Umberto Lenzi jam. I love that one. But one day I just realized I wanted to live inside of The Dead or Alive. Like that movie, for all of its faults, it has this tone that I just crave all the time. It has that vibe. I'm always looking for that Euro horror, Italian film, Spanish horror too, but that vibe. And man, Dead or Alive has that all over it. So yeah, that's my favorite right now.
I haven't seen that. Does your wife have a favorite giallo?
Oh man, I feel ashamed. LeEtta, what's your favorite giallo? All right, she's gonna go deep red.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I also just want to take a moment here for Murder Obsession. Because you love Murder Obsession,
Oh my God,
just
yes.
like I do. Another underrated, underappreciated, underdiscussed giallo.
That was such a flop when it came out. That was such a huge
sad.
flop. Anita Strindberg was like, peace, I'm out. I'm done acting. And Ricardo Freda, his career never recovered. That was supposed to be his comeback to horror, and it did so badly that he directed one more thing and got fired.
Well, that just breaks my heart.
Yeah, he was out of there, but he was old. Like his cameo in that movie is like it's a cameo that was probably intentional, but he was also so old maybe he forgot he was in the shot, you know.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, no, man, Murder. Speaking of that vibe, that is my jam.
It's a vibe that you just crave. Like, I need to go back to that stormy castle.
Totally. Yeah, everything about that movie. So glad you brought that up. Oh, yeah.
So, you make a lot of funny comments in this book. So I have to ask, what's your final verdict on Carroll Baker?
Oh, dude.
Hot or not?
Oh man, she's hot. I have come around. There's a lot of opinions. I have a lot of opinions in that book. I have some sentences in there that I think will haunt me for the rest of my life. I seem to remember saying something like, I'd like to take a stroll down Diane Lane. And I'm like, I can't believe I wrote that, much less let people read that. But no, Carroll Baker, her voice used to drive me nuts. And I never liked her performances. And now I love her voice and I love her performances. It's a completely opposite. Like, I look at my opinions from, like, I'll find a movie I remember seeing in 2010. I go to my blog and I pull it up and I'm reading the review going, I'm complaining about the dubbing. The English dub of an Italian. I'm complaining about that. This wasn't written by me. This is an imposter. Because, like, I just don't have those same opinions anymore. And, yeah, Carroll Baker's a win. I love her.
I do know what you mean about the voice. It sounds like every time she talks, I feel like I'm in trouble.
Yes, she's definitely the disciplinarian of all giallo.
Yes.
I love her.
What about Suzy Kendall?
Oh, yes. I'm still not a huge fan. But I remember saying, like, mean things about her freckles or being washed out or something mean. Some bullshit. I totally don't feel that way anymore because every time I watch Torso, I remember how I used to dislike her, and I can't even imagine what I was thinking.
I know, opinions do change, and the more you see somebody, like, eventually they'll... I don't know if we'll ever warm up to Stefania Stella, but...
Oh, man. All I can hear is my podcast buddy, Jeffrey, on Hello, This is the Doom Show, doing his impression of her voice. It's like, I'm like, man, I'm glad you have an Italian last name, because you can do that. I'm not doing any of that. I don't want to get the Italian-American community mad at me.
We've already mentioned it a little bit. Volume 2 is in the works.
Yeah, man. This is so sad. Last year, my goal was to finish it in December, and now it's January of the following year, and I still have four, maybe 5 movie-thons to go. So new goal is I'm not worried about getting it edited this year. I just want to get it written this year. But I've done 11 chapters. I'm fully into Giallo Meltdown Volume 2, and it's I'm doing themed chapters instead of just mixing it up all the time. So there's going to be a Asian giallo chapter. There's going to be a British giallo chapter. There's going to be multiple Spanish giallo chapters because I almost said the Spanish, the Spaniards really loved to do their own version of the giallo, and man, I can't wait to get to all those. So yeah, it's happening. It's real.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. At the beginning of the last chapter in this book, you mentioned that you were unable to find every giallo ever made. Is that still the case? Or there was a question, I think I skipped over it. Have you noticed a change in availability of these films?
Yeah, we could put these two together. The fact that all these bootlegs that I did are being replaced by these great Blu-rays is incredible. I can't believe I've been able to find stuff like Murder Obsession was like a not a pan scan, but a full frame VHS, and now we have this beautiful Blu-ray of it. As to whether or not we'll be able to find every giallo ever, probably not, because there's not a lot of film preservation, and I don't think that at the time people kept these in very high regard. Like spaghetti westerns and gialli were kind of like disposable art and just to fill the seats at the theaters. So there's gialli that are I think we're both in the Gialloholics group.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of movies that come up in there that will probably never see the light of day. We just have the poster and a synopsis or the crew. We know who's on it, but will we uncover those? I don't know. I hope so. That'd be wonderful.
Lost media drives me crazy.
Same. Big same. There's also stuff that people own but aren't willing to share because they can't get the money they want. And while they're negotiating with Blu-ray companies, the films are rotting. So let's go and just push a little extra. Let's just give those people the damn money. Don't let them hold it hostage.
Seriously, let's crowdfund it.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you for talking to me about Giallo Meltdown. It was a blast, and yes. I am looking forward. I'm looking forward to finishing this one.
No, thank you. I wanted to say you're a unique voice, and you've been doing this for a year, visiting with the Giallo, the country of Giallo. And
coming about 2 years. Yeah.
You bring so much to the table, and you're very fun, and seeing you bring a filmmaker's perspective. It really is cool that you're having a great time with this. I'm eager to continue watching you discover these movies.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been fun documenting my virgin journey. Your
Giarni. Giallo, that doesn't work.
All right. Well, thanks again. Best of luck finishing Volume 2.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is
waiting.
Great. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. This is happening this year. Damn it.
Let's talk again soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Hope you enjoyed that 40-minute interview. What did y'all think? I forgot to let Richard plug himself, but all of his stuff is linked below. You can also find his book, Giallo Meltdown, on Amazon, and keep a lookout for Volume 2. Thanks for watching. Ciao!